Welcome to your Veterans Resource Podcast, Return to Roots. This podcast is for service members and their family members regarding retention, transition, and reintegration from active duty to veterans in the community. Hi, I'm your host, Chris Elder, an active duty senior chief in the United States Navy, and my partner in crime / host is Yogi Hernandez, who's an active duty chief in the Navy. Together, we are documenting our experiences as we prepare to transition and reintegrate into the community. Every podcast will have actionable content that will benefit American service members and their families, as well as those who have already transitioned and reintegrated. We got some exciting news. My Transition Timeline 365 is now on the Android and Apple App Store. Go on there, download it, track your transition timeline, find ReturnToRoots Mil2Vet inside of the app where you can find new updated episodes and get the most up-to-date information on your transition, because your transition and reintegration into the community is priority. Enjoy the app and enjoy this show. This material is intended for a mature audience. If you have little ears within earshot, please make sure that you listen to it before you allow them to listen. We encourage people to utilize Courage to Call 211 if you have any suicidal ideations, or if you just need somebody to talk to. 211 is a great resource. It is our honor to bring you Richard Comitz, who is a West Point graduate and served in the U.S. Army for 23 years and is continuing to serve with American Corporate Partners, also known as ACP. Enjoy.
Richard, welcome to the podcast. You are from American Corporate Partners, and we'd love to have you on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, why you're here, how you end up here, and what you're doing?
Sure. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you for Chris and Yogi for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to spread more about ACP and in ways that we can ease the transition for military members and their families. So I appreciate what you're doing to get the word out. So thanks for that. Yeah, so I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I went to West Point, not a very good patriotic story. I went because I knew it was free and I had a job afterwards. But it turned out that I liked what I was doing when I got out and into the military, that is. And so I spent 23 years in the Army. Throughout that period of time, had a lot of great locations I was at, deployed to Kosovo and Iraq, and was fortunate enough to get a master's and PhD while on active duty. And I ended my career teaching at West Point. So believe it or not, I have a PhD in organic chemistry, which is not that common, but it was working for me, so I continued on with that. Yeah, so then after that, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, as most people are when they're transitioning. And I figured since I was already teaching at West Point that I should probably go into higher ed. I did that for almost 2 years. And I went in at a level a little bit lower than I was hoping to get into, but we can talk about that a little bit more about some of the difficulties when you're transitioning. But got in a role in the administration in assessment, but lucky for me, if anyone could say lucky, COVID hit, and I became the go-to guy to help the university work their way through COVID. And that got me to meet a lot of people at the university, pretty much everyone, and proved my worth and became the director of operations for the university. So I worked for the chief operating officer and the president. And that was great, but I found myself wanting to contribute more at some level, maybe seek additional compensation. So I was looking around and happened to see American Corporate Partners was looking to add some leadership. And I applied and got the job, and I love it. I don't look back at all now. I've been here since November of 2021, so a little bit over a year now. And it's been a great experience because I really get to help our military family members and military service members as they're transitioning during one of the toughest times of their life, which I can speak was pretty difficult. So I'll stop there and go see what else you got for me.
Yeah, brother, that was really good, man. And So you served in Kosovo and Iraq. Did I hear
Yeah.
that correctly? Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty historic. What campaigns were you there?
So I was in OEF basically. So basically, I was there in 2009, 2010.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Afghanistan in 05 and 07.
Okay.
It was like the Wild West back then.
Yeah.
It was pretty spicy around that area. So you graduated from West Point, organic chem. You worked in higher ed, worked your way into a leadership role, helping out the university. Then you ended up into an ACP leadership role, where you get to continue to serve after service. That's amazing. You know, not many people get that opportunity. So I bet you're pretty jazzed about being able to do that.
For sure. I mean, I think a lot of us need that, still crave that tie back to the military in some way, and this was a perfect opportunity for me.
So with the ACP, can you explain why ACP should be at the top of the list for all those active duty members looking into transitioning?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I went through the transition myself, and I'll tell you that I know every service has a different way of doing the transition, the programs that they have, and I think they all have good intentions, but they also have the mission of trying to tell everyone about everything that they need to know when they're transitioning, which is quite a feat in itself, but it's also quite daunting, and you get a little bit of information overload. And in the grand scheme of things, transition is an individual effort, and sitting in a class with other people only goes so far in that individual effort. So I like to say that, you know, with ACP, you're getting a mentor that can help you personally through that transition. So ideally, you're getting a mentor before you transition out, so that mentor can kind of help you work through, you know, the basics of your resume, what type of jobs you want to even apply for. Look at some of those job announcements, figure that out. Hopefully you get some interviews. They can help you with that interview practice, and then help you with networking. And then if you get the job, you know, there's helping you with negotiate salary and other entitlements, because, or compensation, because in the civilian world, it's a lot more than just pay that you can negotiate and bargain with. And then, you know, finally, you're in a new environment. So having that person to kind of bounce off some things about, like, how you integrate into that new position, that new culture, how to deal with your boss, how to deal with your subordinates, all having someone kind of on the outside on your team cheering you through and helping you figure all that out.
So looking through the website, you also help the spouses. How did that come into play? There's a lot of organizations that only solely focus on the service member. And at least for Chris and I, our approach is not just about the service member, it's the holistic approach about the whole family.
I mean, that's a great question. We started working with spouses in 2016, where, again, we recognized that there was a kind of a hole in the system where spouses are transitioning to, and they also have needs and unique requirements. Actually, we work specifically with active duty spouses as well. And so that is, you know, even if they are staying with their service member while they're moving through the military, they have, you know, a mentor to help them maybe find a job that they can maintain when they're moving from post to post with their service member, or maybe a remote opportunity or something like that. So we saw the need, and then we started getting into that, like I said, 2016, and it's been growing ever since. The word's been getting out, and we've had a lot of successful spouses, you know, find employment. Matter of fact, our vice president of outreach and engagement, Leslie Coffey, she knew of our program, and she was in the transition space. She was helping people and recommending them to ACP, but she couldn't use ACP for herself. And when she knew that we were about to help spouses, she set a countdown on our computer or phone or whatever, and as soon as she could apply, she applied, and it helped her out. She'll tell you that she got, I think, a 67% increase in pay through her mentor, and still keeps in touch with her today. So there's a lot of great things that we have in our military spouse community that they just need to know how to capitalize on that, and the mentor can really help them out. Not to mention the fact spouses are always the ones dealing with all the other family things, and this is one time where you're getting someone that's specifically there for you to help you out, not tell you what to do with the kids or your spouse, but specifically to help you grow in whatever way you want.
That is really awesome to hear that this ACP program does that. And one thing I really want to capitalize on is I've never heard about ACP until I started transitioning. And that is where Return to Roots wants to capitalize on telling people about these organizations that are still in. It's not just about getting ready for the transition and reintegration, but it's also setting up your significant others for success now. The more success that they have, the easier that your transition is going to be, because they may shift over into the breadwinner per se later on in life, and you're switching roles. You never know that that there's so many different opportunities out there. And I know that if my wife probably had ACP going into transitioning from the States to overseas, she probably would have found something a little bit more suitable to her situation versus having to work that minimum wage job at the school. Yeah, I got her out of the house because there was no medical jobs on a place that they needed medical professionals, but that's a totally different subject. But
No, you're right.
yeah, that would have been an amazing opportunity for my wife personally to use. So that's so awesome that you guys offer that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen it being super helpful. And listen, you know, a happy transition or a happy family, everyone has to have to feel happy. You can't be, for the longest time, the spouse is kind of putting their professional life on the back burner in order to follow us around. And this is, you know, a time for where maybe they don't have to do that. Or when transition happens, maybe, as you mentioned, they might need to step up, because if we're lucky, we marry someone smarter than us anyway, right? So maybe they can be the breadwinner.
And you bring up a really good point there. The fact is that we need to shift focus, and this is a totally different working environment than it was even 10, 15 years ago. Remote jobs are really, they're really the thing now. That means that our spouses can work from anywhere. They could even remain in the same job, but they don't know to just ask. ACP would give them a mentor saying, hey, you're in this really amazing job. Have you ever asked about seeing if you could do maybe a hybrid or even a full-on remote opportunity while you're overseas?
Yeah,
they may say yes.
Yeah, and you know, we didn't talk about this yet, but our mentors come from mostly about 80% are from our corporate partners, and then about 20% from what we call our citizens program. And the citizens program are just unique people that are good mentors, but they're not associated with a corporate partner. But the corporate partners are a lot of Fortune 500 big name companies, and they have those opportunities in those roles, and they're actually working with people like us to figure out how they can continue to employ more military community members. And that includes places like, you know, for example, Home Depot, like they'll let you move from location to location, right? So there's those type of things to be aware of too, is that there are a lot of these companies have plants or facilities all over the place. So they might be able to allow you to move your job, or as you said, keep it remote. As a matter of fact, I know we're going to talk about this later, but we have coming up after this spring, later April and May, we're going to do what we call remote work symposium. So I don't have the exact date at the top of my head, but take a look at our LinkedIn to figure that out in April or May. But we're going to do a remote work symposium where we're going to bring in a bunch of our corporate partners and have them talk about specific remote opportunities. And we really, although military members are welcome to look at it, we really think that this is a good opportunity for active duty spouses as well.
And looking at the metrics, 26,000 veterans and active duty spouses since 2010, 3,693 veterans and active duty spouses, alumni since 2022, and over 1,159 companies that you guys coordinate with. That is an amazing statistic. And to have that ability to be so flexible and be able to put them families into basically any industry, it's amazing. How did you guys partner up with all these companies? How did that start about?
Yeah, so well, one thing is the number you mentioned, over 1,000 companies, that's where our proteges have gotten jobs. And although we have about 115 corporate partners, what that kind of tells you is that the mentors are really focused on helping them find the right job at the right place, at the right level, so that they're happy. And so that may be at their place of employment, but it may be somewhere else. It may even be at a competitor if that's what's best for the protege. And so that's a big testament to our mentors. They really do go above and beyond to help people find the right jobs. But yeah, we have about 115 corporate partners, and they are really gracious and generous with their not only financial donations with us, but then volunteering mentors to help out with this. And it's been building up since 2008. Our founder, Sid Goodfriend, he basically quit his job, was an investment banker, and decided to start ACP. He had some good relationships with some senior people at some companies, and was able to get about 6 to join that first year. And then every year since then, we've just been continuing to, spread the word about ACP and bring more companies in. And we've been really fortunate that a lot of people see the value of ACP and are willing to donate not only their money, but their time to help transitioning service members and spouses.
So if I was active duty right now, how do I get enrolled into your program, and what are the requirements?
Okay, so we work with anyone that has served 180 days or more since 9/11. So you have to have served since 9/11, and it could be active, guard, reserve in any of the branches. And then with spouses, we work with active duty spouses or spouses of caregivers. So it could be a veteran, it could be someone that's still in the military on their way out. And the way they get in touch with us is just going to our website, which is acp-usa.org. And you scroll down a little bit, and there is a place to sign up, and you fill out a quick little application. And then once you fill out the application, probably within a few days, you're going to get reached out to by one of our operations associates. And our operations associates are there to kind of set up an appointment with you. And then when you do actually have that appointment, you have a conversation with that operations associate about what you're thinking about doing, what areas you're interested, what your background is, and really what you're looking for in a mentor. So you could be as specific as you want. You could say, I want someone, the same sex, the same ethnicity. I want someone closer to me. I want someone in this industry or that industry. And we try to take all those things into account. And then we go in, by hand with that operations associate does into our mentor pool and tries to find a good match. And once we find what we think is a good match, we kind of give you a bio of the other person. So the mentor gets a bio of the protege, and the protege gets a bio of the mentor. And then if you both are happy with thinking that you can work together, then we introduce you and have you start your mentorship. And then throughout the process, that operations associate is going to check in with you and make sure things are going all right. If you need some resources, if you need some help structuring some of your talks, they are there checking in and able to do that throughout the process. And we hope that you meet with your mentor at least about an hour a month. And so, and we try to keep you together for about a year, which sounds a little bit daunting, but really it works out really well, because the ideal situation is you get involved with the mentor before you're transitioning out to work through, that process and what jobs you want to do and how to apply, and then, get through that job, as I mentioned before, and then how to integrate into that job placement. So the time flies when you're going through all that process, and it really is helpful to have those meetings periodically. It's kind of accountability, but also a cheerleader to help you through that process.
How early would you say that this would be useful? And because there's a fine line, right? Especially since the protege mentorship is only for a year recommended. It's how early could you do it so it's not wasteful, and also, without you getting.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it's probably somewhere around 6 or 9 months before you're getting out would be great to sign up, because as I kind of mentioned, you need a little bit of help figuring out what you want to do, and then once you do figure out what you want to do, then coming up with a plan on how to get there. So that includes, writing a resume, that includes searching for jobs, that includes interviewing, negotiating salaries and compensation, and then integrating in. So you would think that having that 6 to 9 months in the beginning to figure out what the heck you're doing, and then a little bit of time at the end to get the integration is probably the ideal situation. Although I would say, you're never too late to get a mentor. Matter of fact, I got a mentor, another mentor when I came into this job, because I am doing things at a different level than I have been in the past. And she's been amazing to help me work through some of the challenges I've had.
And that's pretty cool. So 6 to 9 months ahead of time, and that way you also have that buffer on the background. And I fully agree with you. So right now I'm currently going through that transition process. Now my only question and my only caveat, right, is for someone like me who's going through the med board process, we don't have a specific timeline. What would be your suggestion, and or is there a possibility for maybe extended time if I'm not able to transition out of the military within that specific time?
Yeah, and actually, we stop tracking you after a year. It doesn't mean that you can't continue to talk. Oftentimes, our mentors and proteges continue relationships. I have mentors that have been in the program for up to 10 years, have 7, 8, 9 proteges, and they can still tell you what they're doing, all 9 of them, and they're still keeping up with them. So yeah, it's just that we at that point stop tracking you, but you're welcome to continue talking. And no, you have a really good point. It's a tough situation when you don't know the exact time you're going to leave, but I think there's a lot of things that you can do to prepare yourself for that. And then it might just be, the kind of the pulling the trigger on when to actually apply for a job and stuff like that.
This whole entire program sounds like a really good idea from conception, from back in 2008. Is that when it started?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys went from serving 500 people that year all the way into the numbers that Yogi just said. And that's a lot of families, a lot of generational change that you guys have done throughout the years. So honestly, thank you for being part of that team that has gone out there and really made a change, not just a thank you, but an actual change towards ending the whole entire, like, oh, well, what do I do next? Like, because it is pretty overwhelming. So having that option to have that mentor is probably life-saving for some people.
Yeah, I was going to say there are opportunities where we get to hear feedback from people, and some people will actually say, you know, the mentorship saved their life. And there might be people that think that that's kind of, you know, trite or overstated. But if you think about it, many military members are really lost when they're getting out because they've been told what to do for the whole time. They've had a mission, and now they're left with no mission and no support group. And it could be quite daunting. So if they can't have that support as they're going through, they can definitely spiral to a bad place. And so really having someone help you stay on track and find a meaningful job is really a big part of a successful transition, not only for the service member, but for the family. Because if the service member can't find a job and they're depressed about that and on the couch, and the spouse is, you know, giving them a hard time about not finding a job or not, you know, holding up their end of the bargain. And then the kids are seeing them fight, and it just could be really a bad situation. But just having someone help you through this process a little bit and you know, a little bit of accountability, it really does change some people's lives. And it's great to see that on a daily basis. And I definitely encourage the listeners to check out our LinkedIn page. We post success stories all the time, and it's great to hear. And we do webinars every week, sometimes twice a week, where we're featuring some of the people that are involved in our program, and they're great stories to hear. And you know, I can't make them up. They're just really good news stories.
Some of the things that I've seen going through your page was that you also mentor small businesses, and it covers multiple tracks of life, not just the work life.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a lot of different mentors. So our corporate partners, every industry just about you can think of. And really what the ideal situation is, if you think you want to go into IT, we find you a mentor that's actually working in IT, right? So that they can tell you what it's like, what the culture is like, what you should put on your resume and all that type of stuff. And we have mentors at all levels. So we have CEOs of companies that are mentors in our program down to like line supervisors. So hopefully, you know, we can pair you up with someone a little bit aspirational and in the area that you're looking for. And that, as I mentioned before, we have these citizens mentors, which is about 20% of our mentors come from that area. And they are those specialty niche careers that aren't corporate. So we have doctors and lawyers, we have civil servants, we have politicians, we have real estate agents, you know, small business owners. And so, yeah, this is where when you have those type of aspirations, you can talk to someone. And another thing I'd mention is that you might be set up with a mentor because you think you're going on this track, but you're like, you know what, maybe I might want to do a small business. So we will offer you kind of one-off mentorships with that's, you know, with a mentor in that other area, so you can check it out, right? So you'll be talking with your normal mentor, but you tell your operations associate, I'm still kind of interested in, like you said, small business. Then we'll set you up with a small business mentor so they can kind of give you their perspective on things and give you at least that background so that you have a little bit more information to make a more intelligent decision. Because maybe you are going to take that corporate job or a job for a short period of time with, you know, the aspirations to move into something else later on.
So the small business, you guys have mentors. If I'm looking for a job on the civilian sector, you guys have mentors. If my wife needs a job, you guys have mentors. And your mentors' relationships has been proven to last longer than just a year. So you're not just gaining a resource that's going to just throw you away. You're actually not necessarily buying in, but you're getting into a organization that's going to be around you for the long haul. And I see a lot of group participation from past ACP members and present ACP members. So I see a lot of that coordination, and your organization wouldn't be like that if you guys did not actually work. So you guys work.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we do surveys to make sure we're doing the right things, and we're continually getting 98, 99% of both proteges and mentors saying, I would recommend this program to another service member. I would recommend this to one of my colleagues, the mentor. Really, people are really happy about the program, and it's kind of an interesting experiment, right? Because really what we're doing is putting two people that would have never met each other in any other time in their life together, and they end up being lifelong friends, or at least, professional colleagues where they're helping each other out to get where they need to be.
Shifting gears a little bit, if you already transitioned out and you already have your own company, you're a veteran and stuff like that, and they wanted to partner up with you, how would they do that?
So to be a mentor, you could volunteer at the same website I mentioned before, acp-usa.org. There is a spot that you can click to be a mentor or a protege. So you could be a mentor to help out. If you are in a position that, maybe you feel like you're in a pretty good spot, but you might want to take it to the next level, you can get a mentor to do that as well. You don't have to be looking for a job. You could be wanting to level up in your career, maybe get that next promotion. It could be, now I've been out for a while, I'm thinking about a small business or changing my career trajectory. So a mentor can help there. But if a company is interested in partnering with us to help provide mentors and maybe funding, they can definitely go to our website, and there's an info. They can email info@acp-usa.org, and there should be a place there on the website to click as well if they want more information.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about, I'm going to personally utilize your resources when I actually show up to my appointment on time, guys.
Yeah, everyone listening, I had to let Chris know that he missed his appointment today or earlier this week for his intake with our operations associate. But we now have that squared away, and he's going to be enrolled in the program very quickly.
Considered me counseled. I put a letter in my record.
It'll be on the podcast forever.
Yes.
I want to reiterate one more thing. Yogi hit on there for mentors, but what else can you guys use? What is some other ways that people are like, oh wow, this ACP sounds like a great organization. I have X amount of resources that I need to donate. What do you guys need? Yeah,
so I think the biggest things that we can use, right, is obviously donations are always welcome. There is a donate spot on our webpage. If someone wants to donate, they can do that pretty easily. But I think spreading the word about ACP is very helpful. You would think that you can just go to the DoD and say, hey, ACP is awesome, tell everyone. It doesn't work like that. So as you mentioned, sometimes you didn't even know that ACP existed until recently. So getting the word out, whether it be through your own channels, resources, even social media is huge. So letting people know, friends and family, to check us out. So spreading the word about us is definitely important. If you know any major companies that would like to partner with us, obviously you can put them in touch with us as well. But yeah, getting the word out is the most important thing, because really, well, we have about 4,700 mentorships going on right now. But as you probably know, there's the number is something like 200,000 people are separating from the service each year. So we're only a small slice of that. And then when you take your spouses into considerations, you're probably, upwards of almost 1 million people that can really use these resources. So getting the word out is awesome. And, having too many people to help is a problem that we would love to have, because we could go back to our corporate partners and let them know, hey, we really need more mentors. As a matter of fact, recently we were featured in the VA newsletter and got almost 2,000 applications within a day or two. And we're sorting through those right now, that's amazing. We're helping 2,000 more people just because that email went out with the VA newsletter.
That is fascinating. So just the VA actually for lack of better words, sponsored you guys and let everybody else know about how awesome your program is, and everybody just reached back out. That is awesome.
Yeah, the VA newsletter goes out to several million people, and we were the top story, and yeah, we got over 2,000 applications within about 24, 48 hours. So that was awesome. And we also, over Veterans Day week, we had LinkedIn sponsored us, and they sent out some messages to recruit mentors, and we got about 2,000 mentors within a few days from that. So we're always kind of adjusting the faucets, if you will, of having enough mentors and having enough proteges, but that's a great problem to have.
Wow, that's that's so awesome, because just knowing how much your organization helps, and you guys are getting a lot of help from all these other resources. I'm glad. I feel blessed that I got to actually sit down on this podcast with you and talk about your organization, and I look forward to becoming part of your guys' team as well. Do you have any upcoming initiatives that ACP has planned, or do you have like any future events going to happen, or is there anything that our Return to Roots Mil2Vet listeners should really pay attention to?
Yeah, I would say a few things. We have weekly webinars, we call it like Inside Look, where we're talking with some of our corporate partners about what it's like to work at their company, what type of roles they have, how some military members can work their way in there. And those have been really popular and valuable, because oftentimes we don't know when we're transitioning out of the service. And so you might think, oh, why would I want to work at Tyson Chicken? I'm not going to process chicken, right? But did you know Tyson Chicken has project managers, a supply chain, and HR, and all these things, right? All these big companies have all those different jobs. And so hearing about what they do, what type of jobs they have, what their culture is, has really been super helpful. So I would encourage people, and they're on our LinkedIn Live. So all you have to do is go to our LinkedIn at American Corporate Partners on LinkedIn, and they come up every Tuesday and Thursday. Sometimes we don't have 2 a week, but we definitely have at least 1 every week. So that's one thing that's good. I would also encourage people to join our LinkedIn group, which is called ACP Connects. You have to ask to join, and we'll let you in. That is a good place to get resources, to get job opening visibility, to get some tips and tricks. So that's where we are able to spread a lot of good information about what's going on in ACP. We also have other social media outlets, Instagram. We even started TikTok recently to appeal to the younger crowd. And super shout out to our TikTok administrator, Tabitha. She's been amazing, and we've literally had this year about 100 people sign up saying that they found out about ACP through TikTok. So that's a whole nother amazing avenue that I would never thought of before. But again, we'll do whatever we can to get the word out for sure. So watch some webinars, go to ACP Connects, and then, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing coming up in the late spring, early summer, a remote work symposium where we're going to really feature a lot of great companies that have remote opportunities. And that is definitely going to help not only transitioning service members, but a lot towards the military spouses that may not even be transitioning. They could be, just getting in, but them being happy and having the ability to keep their job as they're moving around with their spouse actually adds to retention, right? Because the family helps you get out. So either you're going to stay in because you're a family, or you're going to get out because you're a family. And if the military spouse is happy and they're able to continue to further their career while you're moving around, that's another big bonus. So look out for the remote work symposium. So those are the big areas that you can really get some bang for your buck out of ACP without even being a protege or a mentor in the program. But as you mentioned, Chris, the best thing you can do is get a mentor for yourself. and go through the process. It's free. If I didn't mention that, it's free. So there's no loss there. But the potential gains are huge.
It's only potential losses if you don't attend your meetings like someone we know, right?
Yeah, you can't really be mentored if you don't talk to your mentor.
Yogi,
but on a serious note,
just remember when you point at me, there's 3 other fingers pointing right back at
hey,
you.
I was pointing at my nose. I'm just saying. But on a serious note, this is part of the reason why we started the whole podcast, right? So we wanted to start the podcast because we obviously, now that we're transitioning, we're seeing the other side of the curtain, and we're seeing how such an effect of the homelessness, the suicides, the incarceration rates, that was extremely alarming, right? But something that Chris and I wanted to focus on also is to be able to provide resources to service members that are still on active duty and are going to continue to add to the retention. Because as you said, these resources, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't start looking until you're getting out. So for me, there was a lot of programs that I'm learning, like now ACP, that I wish I would have known for the last 21 years of my career, because I would have been able to connect so many people and direct them your way that needed the help that you're providing.
For sure. I think that's the big take home for all this is really, there's a lot of programs that are very helpful out there. We're definitely one of them, and spreading the word is we owe that to our fellow service members and their families to help ease their transition, because I'll tell you that everybody told me you'd have no problem when you're transitioning out. You heard my a little bit of my resume, right? Oh, you have a PhD, you taught at West Point, you went to West Point, no problems. It's still stressful. And I didn't have people knocking at my door offering me jobs. I literally was applying to hundreds of jobs, hoping that someone would, really take notice of me. And so it's stressful. And if we can help ease that stress for someone, it's a big deal.
I just want to reiterate those 3 things that you said: the weekly webinars, the LinkedIn page, the Connects remote work workshop that you guys are doing. You guys need to take a look at those. There are going to be resources that are going to help you guys out. And when you said, hey, when your significant other's happy, you're probably either going to stay in and be more productive or get out and be more productive. The thing is that you're going to be more productive because they're happy. And that's a lot of sacrifice that we have to do traditionally in the military. Is one of us had to sacrifice, time away from the family, and one is sacrificing time away from their significant other while they're raising the family. So now the dynamic has changed a lot, and ACP is out there to help assist you guys. And I want to ask more questions. I want to dig deeper into this, but for the sake of our listeners' times, let's move over into the final questions. But I will
how about this, Chris? We'll do another segment when you're a few months into your mentorship, and you tell us how it's going.
I like that, man. We could even make that a live event on our Facebook community page that we created that has already hit about 350 members in the last 2 days. It's growing, and now it's starting to grow organically, not from Yogi and Chris's invites. So the end questions that we have for you today is, if you had any recommendation for a transitioning service member, or even that active duty service member and their family that is about to transition, what book or podcast would you recommend them to start listening to?
Wow, there are a lot of good ones. I mean, I'm a big podcast listener, and I'm also a big leadership type of person. So this one's good for whether you're in the military or transitioning out. I really do like Jocko Willink's podcast. He was he has some really good information. The book that he has, Extreme Ownership, really, kind of puts things down that you probably inherently know, but really throws it at you in a way that you don't forget about it. And I'll tell you that I spread that to my wife, and she's a very, very high up professional in her own right, and she will tell me, hey, I used the Jocko quote today, or I used the Jocko technique, like flanking or whatever. And I'm like, that's awesome, because he really does break down a lot of things that, it's really relationships in one way, shape, or form, whether it be with your boss, with your subordinates, with your significant other. So I like what he has to offer. There's a lot of good transitioning podcasts. There's a lessons learned for vets, I believe it's called, is very good. Even Soldier for Life has a podcast. There's if you want to get into some interesting ones but have great messages, Veterans Trash Talk, great group of guys. I was on that one. They're pretty rough around the edges, but they're hilarious, but they really care about helping the military community as well. There's so many. I wish I would have prepared. I could have had a list about 15 or 20 of them, but there's a lot of great ones out there. Take a look at them and do some searching and figure out which ones resonate with you. But I think the Lessons Learned has some pretty good tips. And then, like I said, the Soldier for Life has some good ones. Yeah, so take a look at them. We also, on our LinkedIn page, will advertise other organizations that we kind of work with that are also doing things like podcasts, or sometimes we'll advertise, career fairs or events. So that's another good place to look on our LinkedIn page.
Lessons Learned by Lori Norris.
You got it. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I attended one of her resume classes that she taught, and she was fantastic. She's actually partnering up with us to collaborate, and we're working on the logistics on when we can get her to collaborate and do some stuff with her. She really is amazing.
I was on her podcast, but yeah, I've seen a lot of great ones that she's had, for sure.
So, second question.
No, go ahead, bro. Sorry, man.
If you were to go back to your pre-high school before you joined West Point, which, by the way, for everybody that doesn't know what West Point is, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but West Point is the equivalent to going to like Harvard for the military. And it's a really strenuous, rigorous program. If you have family members that were part of it before, you're able to apply. Doesn't mean that you're going to get in. But if you haven't had that kind of legacy, you have to have a congressional sponsor to vet you, and also your GPA and your grades have to be amazing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know how I got in, but yeah, it's pretty competitive these days. So yeah, you're right. I'm looking at other podcasts. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Philosophy from the Front Line. Good friend of mine, Rob, does that podcast. Yeah, I told you, Veteran Trash Talk, Soldier for Life. Yeah, GI Jobs has had a few. Yeah, so there's definitely some good ones out there. So take a look at them.
So the question was, what advice would you give yourself back before you joined West Point?
Advice in what direct, like just life advice?
Life advice, career advice, because you mentioned that your goal was not to stay in the military, but then you found love in what you did. So with that mindset, right, a lot of the people that are thinking about joining the military, they're thinking about only doing it for 4 years for whatever reason. Very few, from my personal experience, really joined wanting to do the whole 20 years?
Yeah, so I think one of my biggest pieces of advice to most people, and I try to tell, teach my kids is, be open-minded to the possibilities, right? So you got to work hard, but you also have to take it as it comes. And so you could have your 2 or 5 or 10 or 20-year plan, and it's great to have those plans, but also keep as many doors open as you can as you're traveling through life. And you never know when you might want to change direction or whatever. So really, working hard, having discipline, and I think the right things will come to you. And it's not easy to be patient, I guess, that's one of the things that I wish I could tell myself to get better at, but I don't think anyone is super good at being patient when they're traveling through life. So, be patient as well.
That's great advice, being patient with yourself. A lot of people could probably use that. I know I could definitely use that. And recently I've been kind of reminding myself that I need to be patient through my transition process. Mostly patient with myself.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
I think
a
it's
very
important to give yourself that ability. You definitely have to work hard, but you can only influence the things that you can influence. You can't change things that are out of your control. Oftentimes we spend a lot of time on things we can't control, right? So if you spend your time preparing yourself, doing the best you can, that's what you can control. You can't control what other people say or think or what might happen. So it's not worth spending a lot of time stressing over those things.
Yeah, brother. Before we go into the thank yous and everything, how can our members get a hold of you and your organization?
Yeah, so feel free to link in with me, connect on LinkedIn. My name is Richard, Richard, Comitz. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only one. And so I should be pretty easy to find. So feel free to connect with me. And again, I mentioned several times, but if you go to search American Corporate Partners on LinkedIn and follow us or connect with us, that would be super helpful. And ACP connects on LinkedIn. And then you could search for us on other social media platforms. We're pretty much on all of them in various levels and degrees. But yeah, getting the word out about ACP, going to our resources, go to our website, acp-usa.org, and sign up.
I really do appreciate you coming on here, taking your time, sitting down with us over Zoom. Something that we never even heard of before the pandemic.
That's right.
It's funny how times change, and now no matter where you're at, you being in New York, us being in San Diego, we're able to connect and build upon each other and help each other out. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing ACP, sharing your story. And I think it's going to be a lot of great resources for the Return to Roots community. So look up ACP, their mentorship program. And it's not just a mentorship program, it's a relationship program. They're going to help you find relationships that are going to change not only your life, but your family members' lives.
Well said. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I do want to, Yogi, we can't let him get out of it. We got to revisit this again in a few months after Chris gets his mentor and finally meets with him, and let us know how it's going.
This is the verbal counseling. Hopefully we don't have to escalate to a written counseling for his UA and tardiness.
I consider it insubordination.
No, but Rich, absolutely thankful for having you here. From my part, I've always looked up to people from the academy and also West Point. I should say from the academies, that graduated because it's an honor. I applied to go to the academy when I was in high school. I was not a U.S. I was going through my residency at the time, and then I also applied to the Naval Academy while I was in my first command. Unfortunately, my citizenship paperwork didn't arrive until after I was already on deployment, and my timeline for the application had already passed. So that is something I can't regret it because it was out of my control, but it's something that I really wish I would have been able to be a part of, especially from everyone that I've met. So thank you again for being here with us and sharing your whole experience, and also for giving back to the community even after you got out. Thank you.
Thanks again, guys.
All right, everybody. You heard Richard from ACP. Remember, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, and it is your transition and reintegration. So get out there and start taking charge of it. Thank you. Do us a solid, share this content with everyone you know, regardless if they're associated with the military or not. This content will help someone you know, and hopefully will lessen the deadly gap after service. Our goal is to do whatever we can to reduce the number of suicides from 22 to 0 within the community. Give us a 5-star review, follow, like, and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and you can follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more content from our guests. These are our personal experiences, and we do not represent the views of the United States Navy and/or the Department of Defense. Your transition is ultimately up to you. Please do your research and ask questions. Use Master Chief Google or ask a friend and network within the community that you belong to. Return to Roots out.